In this video, I'll touch on a topic of much confusion where people sometimes don't understand how spreads behave as and price marches on. And if you have come from a background where you were trading just calls and puts, this subject becomes especially confusing because spreads just do not behave anything like regular calls and puts. So, before I go into this topic, I just need to briefly touch upon how an option is priced. Now, there are various models for pricing options. These are all mathematical models. So, Black-Scholes is the most common. Then we have binomial model, trinomial model. So, there are a few models. Black-Scholes is the most commonly used. If you look at Black-Scholes, this is how it's going to look like. And I have no desire to go into the technicalities of explaining how this works. What I'll do instead is I'll focus on a really simple way of explaining to you how an option is priced. So, for all practical purposes, really, this is the only thing you need to know. An option value consists of intrinsic value and extrinsic value combined together. So, if you just remember this part, that will answer most of your questions about how your calls or call spreads or put spreads behave as the price of an equity moves up and down and as expiration approaches. Now, the first component of the pricing of the option is intrinsic value. Now, intrinsic value is super simple. There is like nothing complicated about it. So let's talk about a call option. So the intrinsic value of a call option would be just underlying price minus the call strike. Let's take the example of Okta. So let's say the Okta stock is trading at $185 right now, and you have a call. Uh, you have a 180 call. Now the intrinsic value of that 180 call is simply 185 minus your strike price, which is 180, which is $5 or 500 because of the $100 multiplier. So that's what intrinsic value is. It's simply the current price of the stock minus the strike price of your call if you're talking about call options, and that gives you the intrinsic price. The As expiration approaches, it has no effect on the intrinsic price. The only thing that has an effect on the intrinsic price is the price of the stock, not the time. Now, the next component is the topic of much confusion, which is the extrinsic value. A lot of people call it as simply time value, but it's really more complicated than that. But I will not go into that in this video. So basically, extrinsic value of a call is the time value and the implied volatility. So notice I didn't say time value plus implied volatility because it's more complicated than that. So let's just remember that extrinsic value of a call is the time value and implied volatility combined together. I have another video on how debit spreads work. If you haven't watched it, I highly encourage you to watch it because I have really explained in detail the mechanics of how a debit spread works and how it's constructed and all that stuff. But let's just focus on the profit and loss diagram of a debit spread. So in this example, let's pretend I have the stock is XYZ, and when the stock was trading at $40, I bought a 45 bull call spread, which means I bought a 40 call and a 45, I sold a 45 call at the same time. Now, the P&L chart of a bull call spread looks like this. So this axis shows you the stock's price, and this axis shows you your profit and loss. So let's pretend that you bought this when the stock was at 40. You bought this 45 bull call spread and you paid $2 for it. So what's the maximum you can lose on this? So you can't lose more than what you paid for it. So that's why the loss is capped at $200. And since a spread's value can never go more than the width of the strike, so 45 minus $45, that's the maximum value. And since you paid $2, you can only make $3, right? So your profit is also capped at the top. So let's go back to this diagram. So the stock is at 40. You bought a 40-45 bull call spread for $2. Now, if it expires below 40, that's your maximum loss, and the loss is flat, so you can't lose any more than that. But if it starts going up above 40, at 40, if it expires at 42, since you paid $200, that's your break even. You don't make any money, you don't lose any money. But once it starts going above 42, that's when you start making money. So as it goes towards 45, you keep making money, and then it's capped off at 300. So that's your P&L chart of a bull call spread. Now, to explain how a bull call spread or a bear put spread or any kind of debit spread reacts to time, let's switch to think or swim. Explain how intrinsic and extrinsic value affects options and specifically spreads, because we only trade spreads. As expiration approaches, let's switch to think or swim, and I'm going to choose this stock Okta. We have a position on Okta right now, so we have 19 days left on this position. So let's expand this 10th July expiration cycle, and you will notice that it's showing me I have a 180 185 bull call spread in Okta. The current price of Okta is 198. The maximum value of this spread, as you know, cannot be more than the difference between the width of the strikes. So 185 minus 180 is $5. So the spread can never trade more than $5. That's the maximum value of the spread. Now when you put on the trade, we paid $2.50 for this spread. Now since the value of the spread cannot be more than 5, so the maximum we can make is $2.50. So we are risking $2.50 to make $2.50. Now if you notice, in Thinkorswim they have this thing called layout, and you can play with this, but it shows you different attributes of an option. So what I've chosen for you is position, intrinsic, extrinsic. So if you choose that, it shows you the intrinsic value and the extrinsic value of all the options. So we have a 180 185 bull call spread. So if you look at the 180, and the price of Okta right now is 198, so our spread is deep in the money. So price is somewhere over here, we are in the money already. So why is this trade still open? Why haven't I been able to close this trade for a maximum profit? So what if you just look at this intrinsic value column, you will notice that the intrinsic value of the 180 call option is 1819, and the intrinsic value of the short call, which is 185, is 1319. So if you simply subtract 1819, you do 1819 minus 1319, you will get $5. So if you just only pay attention to intrinsic value, you will see that the spread should be trading at $5. So why are you not able to close it today at $5 when you're in the money? And the answer to that is this column, the extrinsic value. So both these options have a time value or extrinsic value component attached to them. So the calculation is not as simple as 18 minus 13 or 1819 minus 1319. You have to do 1819 plus 221 minus 1319 minus 3. So you have to add these two and add these two, and that will give you the actual value of the spread. So just keep that in mind. So now let's to explain the profitability further, let's switch to this tab called Analyze tab in Thinkorswim, and Okta is currently selected, and it has already chosen the position that I have, 180 185. And let's do this. So in this section where it says price slices, let's say set slices, break even, and it shows you two dates. This is the current date 6/21 and this is the expiration date. Since I want to explain to you how this will behave as expiration approaches, let me choose 7/11, and then let me add another slice, add slice, which will simply add this line which indicates the current price of Octas, which is at 198. So we bought the spread, the 180 185 spread, somewhere over here when Octa was trading at 180. Look at the bottom, this is the price, 180. So for us to make the maximum profit on the spread, the Octa should expire above or at 185. So this is 185. From 185 onwards, it doesn't matter where it expires. 186, 190, 200, doesn't matter. Remember, with debit spreads, the profit potential is capped. So this line, this is a profit potential on the left side, right? So the max you can make is 250. This is 200, 250, and it just capped. It doesn't go any further. And this is your break-even point. So if it expires at 182 here, 182, then you'll make no money. And then if it starts going below that, then you start losing money, and finally or below 180 is when you lose all your money. So that's your P&L chart. Now let's see how this progresses as time goes on. So today, so if you notice this pink line, that represents today or reality, and this blue line represents your profit potential at expiration. So as time goes on, you will notice that the pink line starts taking the shape of the blue line slowly, day by day. So currently, since at 198, let's hover over this point, 198, and it's showing you that I'm only making $80 profit right now, although the price is way beyond 185. 185 is here, 198 is here, so way beyond that, but I'm only making $80. And as explained earlier, the reason is the extrinsic value of the options is kind of canceling out the profit. So the extrinsic value of those options need to drain out the juice, the time value needs to drain out for the intrinsic value to bring out the actual profit. Now on this side, you will notice that this is the value at expiration, the blue one, and the pink one is the current value of that spread. So if I stop at 198 and you look at that, the blue one, it says at expiration, if it's at 198, I'll make $250, but the pink value shows I'll only make $79 if it's at 198 today. So now let's do another thing. So if you notice this column called PL open, so it says $79, which is how much we are making as of now. Now what I'll do for you is I'm going to simulate time passing on by clicking this plus icon near the date. So it's showing 6/21. The profit is 79. Now notice when I click this plus icon, now the date is 6/22. The profit has gone up from 79 to 84. Now let's keep clicking it slowly and see how, pay attention to two things, the profit and loss and how this graph, the pink line, is changing shape. So 623, $89, 624, $95. So I'm going to fast forward, see how the profit is increasing as the time window is coming close, and how the pink graph is now beginning to look like the blue one. So this is the expiration, 7/11. And on this date, if the stock expires at 198, look on this side. Both these values are exactly the same. They're at 250. Whether the stock price is at 185 or 198, there is no difference. So That's the thing which confuses people when dealing with debit spreads. So just the key to remember is you have to wait for the extrinsic value of both the options to come out or go nearly to zero for you to make full profit on debit spreads. Now, one exception to that is, now let's switch back to a, an earlier date. So let's pretend it's 7/1, okay, and stock price is at 198, and you have made $143. Look at the pink number, $143. Now, if the price keeps shooting up on the same date, you will notice that the you are actually making more money. Although the expiration is still far away, if the stock price goes all the way up to 220, notice that you've almost made full profit. So I have mentioned this in the past that typically for a debit spread, if it's in the money, you will have to wait at least 7 to 10 days before expiration to be able to close it. Now, there are exceptions to that. If the stock price moves up really fast, like the example I'm giving you, you have a 185, 180, 185 pull call spread, and the stock price goes all the way up to 240. If that happens, the stock price shoots up that fast, then you may be able to close the spread way earlier. So I hope that clears some confusion about how debit spreads work, how to figure out, if you have think or swim, how to figure out how much money it's making today and at what point it might close in the future.